Why are we here?
I had this dream that we're both sitting here and we're talking, and then you're at the door. And then I saw this face that I never want to see again.
Well, I gotta go.
Welcome back to the Overtly Critical Film Show. I'm Ryan.
And I'm Corwin.
And is the door shut? It is shut.
It is shut.
Good. That means it's showtime. This is episode 4. What did we watch this week?
We watched the movie Mulholland Drive by David Lynch, starring
Naomi Watts, Laura Elena Haring, and Johnny Knoxville's brother. Justin Theroux, a couple other people, Ann Miller, Robert Foster, Forster, my fault. This is from 2001. It's a David Lynch movie, and we don't really know what happened.
So, normally we start off with reading the plot. You can't really do this with this movie because the plot is so very non-objective.
Yeah, it's very weird.
It's very much... You can get a lot of different readings of this.
Dark-haired woman is left amnesic after a car crash. She wanders the streets of Los Angeles in a daze before taking refuge in an apartment. There she is discovered by Betty, a wholesome Midwestern blonde who has come to the City of Angels seeking fame as an actress. Together, the two attempt to solve the mystery of Rita's true identity. The story is set in a dreamlike Los Angeles, exploited neither by traffic jams nor smog. That's a weird interpreted observation.
Now that is in my opinion a cheating log line because I did not think about that, but that detail of there's no traffic and no smog, is something that you could easily miss if you're not familiar with LA.
The first basic thing we can talk about is how we were presented with everything.
Yeah,
and it's kind of like what it says. It opens with the accident, if I can remember, with Rita, this brunette. And after she kind of finds this apartment, then we move to, Winky, some kind of restaurant that reoccurs in the movie.
Yeah, it's in a few scenes. Just this, Denny's type diner.
Right, it does kind of look like Denny's logo. Do you want to explain that weird scene where there's a man in a dream and it happens?
Basically, they're talking about these nightmares this guy has, and as the scene progresses, the bits of the dream start to appear in the sense that the guy says, oh, you were standing over by that counter, the man he's talking to, he looks like a detective or something, the guy goes over, he's at the counter, oh god, that beginning, looking at the monitor.
We're not even going to talk about that. That's too much.
Yeah. Anyways, getting back on track, and then he talks about how this man is watching them, and they go out around the corner of the restaurant. This Bigfoot Sasquatch looking ass guy comes out and says, boo, it's a jump scare. And I think there's a lot of stuff we could bring up about the plot, but it doesn't make sense because this movie is not a traditional plot structure.
Thanks to John Easton at an unnamed school that I go to, in Principles of Video...
New England School of Communication.
Shut up. We've been talking about earlier genres of cinema that rival the Hollywood narrative, and one of them is Surrealist cinema. And this movie, after doing some research, is technically described as Surrealist cinema. And that makes sense, and Surrealist movies basically put more emphasis on some artistic idea or some inner character thoughts than a cohesive plot. And that's exactly what this movie is. If we're led to believe that through an interpretation that this is somehow Naomi Watts' dreams,
Diane's
right.
dream.
Well,
it becomes pretty clear throughout the movie, especially not really the halfway point, but I think it's, if you can call it the third act, it's about 2/3 through the movie where we are put into the after this sort of, not really MacGuffin, but this box is opened. And this is one of your first real hints. There's hints throughout the movie that this is a surreal element, like the logline says, that this is a far too clean to actually be Los Angeles or Hollywood area. The old couple that Betty talks to after she gets off the plane, their dialogue and the performance sounds so bad, and I thought, why is it so bad?
Yeah, I thought it was bad ADR first.
Yeah, and I was like, no, it's not well, I think it is actually ADR, but it's completely intentional, and like this box looks plastic and fake. It's like, what the hell? And the key is weird, and like, this is like some sci-fi stuff. What is it? It looks like a toy, and you start to put pieces together that these are imagined things in the mind of Diane, and that Betty herself is a made-up like version of Diane.
Yeah, so by the end of the movie, it's pretty clear that Diane lives...
Right, I got totally off track, and that, if I can finish, Rita, the character that we are led to know as Rita, the amnesiac woman, opens the box, and then we're put into the perspective of the same actress, Naomi Watts, who was Betty, playing Diane, and we see all these similar elements in people now through Diane's perspective in a much more objective view, and it's sort of, we're made to understand. I didn't quite get into it. We talked about it, because I get sidetracked, that Betty and Betty's journey is taking place within the mind of Diane.
If we're going to go with the idea that, like for the sake of the argument thing, that this is about this lady Diane and she made up these characters and dreams in her head, and that hobo monster thing is actually something she's afraid of, and she made up that whole diner scene in her head, and everything basically is fake until really the end when we actually see her kill herself. We'll go with that. But we also had some of our own interesting interpretations. And then after that, I do want to get into like specific like elements of the script and stuff. But I'll let you talk about it because you brought it up, even though we both noticed it.
I had my first, like, as we're watching this, the first like thing I start to pick up on in this movie is that David Lynch, I think, is definitely trying to. And of course, it's very hard to figure out what David Lynch means about anything because he's very cagey. But I think it's pretty clear he's trying to make a point about Hollywood's culture, especially a very misogynistic culture in Hollywood. There's like the first scene with the Johnny Knoxville's brother, the director, Adam. I think his name was Adam something in the movie, where he's at the executive board meeting, and he's trying to they're presenting an actress and they're saying, no, this will be the actress in the movie, and you've got this creepy little guy in a chair who's like controlling things behind the shadows, which that guy has been in some of David Lynch's other stuff. I think he was in Twin Peaks. He's
like a weird, like, he looks like he's like the mastermind. It's like some conspiracy about Hollywood, but he doesn't really come back.
And I think what reframing it as things that Diane is dreaming about and worried about, I think that can be seen as if every scene we see in the movie is something that takes place in her head, that can be seen as how she views Hollywood and how he feels Hollywood has treated her, and how she was kicked out of roles not because of lack of talent, but kicked out of roles because of just objective reasons, like creepy men wanting pretty women in their movies, or the creepy ass audition scene. God, we were all just cringing like during that.
As Dan pointed out, was like Trump Biden.
Oh,
it's true that she made up those events as like, that's what I would have to do in this world to actually have become an actress. I would have to like let somebody like grope me, essentially. Like, it's fucked up.
Yeah, but that was like that creepiness of Hollywood was like the first thing I picked up on in the movie, and I definitely think, wow, it's not the entire point of the movie, is a big part of it, that Hollywood is this creepy, toxic environment, and, you don't really have much control. It's these old white men executives who are controlling everything, and they're screwing over the artistic visions of actors and creators.
And we also see that even through Adam's story, because even his artistic vision is messed up and his life in the movie is messed up. I do want to talk about a couple of things in terms of like So there's a bunch of like events and characters that seem to be random, but most everything does come back. Actually, literally everything does. Like the weird monster comes back at the end. The guy she made up in that sequence technically shows up a little bit, even though he's made up.
The big ears guy.
The assassin. There was a point to that because she actually knows the assassin.
Now I want to interject here because that's the first scene with the assassin. One of my favorite scenes in the movie because I think it's hilarious.
It's funny.
Where he's like just screwing up the job. That black book. What was up with that? Because I do not remember that coming back.
No, yeah. So they made us think about.
The assassin comes back, but everything, the rest of the people he kills in that, taking the black book, I didn't get how that would. To me, it's like, what does that have to do with the story? What does that have to do with Diane's dreams? I didn't get it.
So yeah, I mean, if that wasn't Diane's dream, then maybe that book has to do with something that he did, like when she hired him. But maybe, I mean, we know that she's capable of dreaming scenes where she doesn't exist, like that diner scene with the monster. So, like, maybe she did make it up. I don't know the significance of that. But, like, some of these things, even though they don't exactly make sense, a lot of them come back. Nothing happens and it's like a one-off or something. Because we saw that jump scare thing, and I'm thinking, like, we're almost done with the movie. I'm like, this thing's got to have a meaning. And then he does come back at the... Or
he does,
is it a she,
a couple
maybe?
Times. The monster guy.
Comes
the
back
creepy dude.
Comes back at the very end, actually. And, no, I want to talk about, kind of like I said, especially the beginning, very dreamlike. Like, the dialogue is, it's like very...
Something out of a sitcom.
Yeah, even not even Betty stuff, like even like the cowboy scene, all of that dialogue is very weird.
That was my favorite scene in the movie.
And
I loved that. That was just so creepy and so well shot and just great acting.
It does feel like something that you would dream. It's really weird.
And that's something that David Lynch is a master of. I think generally we can divine sort of meanings from dreams of like, oh, if I'm dreaming about being chased by a monster, it's probably because I'm anxious about some event coming up.
But within a dream, the flow of events, the sequence of events and interactions, it all feels wrong. Some technical editing, camera stuff. The one thing that fucking was nuts about this movie, the creepy, slow camera moves that often led to nothing. Yeah. After that fucking jump scare, every time he would slowly move around a room, I was like, we're going to get fucked. But nothing happened.
It's anxious in the way it's produced. Like, there is very little music in this movie. For the first part of this movie, there was, like, no music. But there was, like, super quiet bits. There's not even, like, gnat sound in a lot of this. Because he's going for that dreamlike feeling, I think. And it's so unnerving. I was like sitting there, I was listening to the room around me. I was just, God, why is there no music? I was like, are our speakers too bad? We don't have great speakers, but...
Yeah, I mean, it really was a lot of those camera moves that really gave it like the weird dreamlike feel. It's like...
Or even just still shots where he doesn't move it for a while.
Or it's like why are we taking so long? And that's why the movie's like 2 hours and 20 minutes. It's like, why are we taking so long to go from a scene of Betty and Rita in the same room? It's like weird. Yeah. I guess another thing I'll touch on too is that this movie is like, I thought this movie was kind of a horror movie because it was creepy, it was unnerving, and it was just wrong. And one of the more
very suspenseful.
And one of the more dreamlike scenes in the movie, like absolutely some crazy bullshit you'd have in a dream and like nightmare I should say, not a dream. But also another thing that does come back is when at the ending when you have the homeless person in the bag with the box, and then the mini old people run out of the bag.
Oh, man.
It was so fucking creepy. And then we go to Diane, which I assume is in real life, and then she envisions this. She opens the door, this knock on the door, and it's the little people.
Crawling through the bottom of the door.
And then they, like, turn giant, and then they chase her.
They start, like, harassing her, and then she shoots herself.
That shit is straight out of a dream. That ending was so freaking creepy. It fucked me up that night.
As they're getting into Diane's room, and they find her rotting carcass on the bed. That's how Diane sees herself. She feels like she's just, rotting and wasting away, and she's useless. And then at the end, that vision of herself comes true because she shoots herself at the end of the movie.
She dies on the bed.
Yeah. And the thought I had that I want to get to before I forget about it is what's great in this movie of how it surprises you and misleads you and plays with your expectations and just sort of generally fucks with you, is you're really led from the beginning of the movie to think that Betty is just the audience's like analog through the story, like through which the story is viewed. I don't know if I used analog correctly, but who cares? But like, you know, that sort of Luke Skywalker-y, this is who we're seeing the story through, and we think that Rita is like the character who this is all about because she has amnesia, and you know, she's from Hollywood, she's from this disturbing world as it's presented in the movie. But then of course it really turns out to be, when Rita opens the box, it was Betty who is actually Diane. It's a great twist in the movie.
Maybe she's just a shitty actress, or maybe the system, Hollywood, did screw her over, and she's just making up these dreams and characters to deal with it or to understand it. That's all fine and well, but there's a lot of random scenes. Like, there's a whole opera scene that lasts like literally 10 minutes. And there's like some Spanish guy or some magician, and then some Spanish lady. She sings like a song, and there's like that weird thing, silencio, which somehow has meaning. Yeah,
that's how the movie ends, isn't it? I can't remember that shot. The movie. It ends on the
It ends with her saying silencio, but I mean,
the
like,
blue hair lady.
Even like in the end of the second act, Rita wakes up after they had some very passionate lesbian sex.
This is a movie that isn't exactly not a great one for the kiddos. But if you're watching this show, you're probably you probably know that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we know what Diane dreams about. So
fair.
Anyway, God, now I'm thinking about it. So. Okay, I'm sorry. There was like literally one scene, like Rita gets out of the shower, and like I feel like 10 seconds later she's just naked, and Betty's like, "Oh my god!" So I don't know.
God.
Anyway, yeah. So like Rita wakes up after they screw her or whatever, and she just keeps saying silencio, and she's like, "We need to go somewhere," and they go to this like opera house kind of thing, and there's some people in there. There's some guy doing magic, and he's talking about like how. Yeah, there it is.
Hey, yep, there.
All right, and she puts on a wig for no reason.
Well, she does it in the idea of the dream to disguise herself.
Right, because...
I wonder if that's, like, subtext to try and, like, say, like, trying to bridge the gap between the two? I don't know. It's hard to
What I
analyze.
originally thought is in this dream is that the character Rita was an actress that... like these creepy Hollywood people wanted in a movie and she refused or something like that. That's what I had originally thought, and that's why she wanted to disguise. Like the company was like, "Oh, this is our girl." Maybe someone said that about her, and she didn't want the role, and so she tried to just get away. And they were like, "We're gonna hunt her and kill her," and then she just got hit by a car. That was my theory.
It becomes very clear by the end of the movie that Diane orders a hit on. Or orders this assassin to kill Camilla, who Rita actually is, and that maybe this whole dream as well is part of her trying to like ignore that and pretend she didn't do it and think like, oh, but what if we could have been together?
You know what? Here's a lot easier way to understand the movie. You know Wizard of Oz? How I know the ending. How like everybody in real life, she made a character in her dream. In the dinner scene at the director's house, everybody is there, including, what's her name?
The cowboy's even there.
Including Coco, that lady, who's actually the director's mom.
Yeah.
So she made up all those people are real. That dinner scene, I think, was even real somehow. And maybe Diane was there somehow for some reason. And everybody, that was real life. Like, the director got Camilla in the movie because they're married or whatever, and then the director's mom is there. And all of that is real, and like she just made everything up based off of those people.
Yeah, it's just ideas that were in her subconscious.
Right. But that scene I think is real or very close to reality. Maybe Diane is an actress, but she's not like she doesn't get the big roles, and maybe that's why she's depressed. So maybe she.
No, I thought that was very clear to me.
Maybe she would be at this party. So, but not obviously the star role like Camilla was. So she made up the character Rita. She changed the director's backstory. She changed all these things, and that's what you often do in dreams sometimes.
She kind of punishes the director Adam in her dream because, as we find out in the dinner scene, Adam is with Camilla, and I think they were gonna say that they were pregnant together.
Probably.
That's what my interpretation was, but they're definitely they're together. they're a thing, and she's very
He
clearly,
was kissing her on set as he was directing her to
she
do something.
very clearly resents him for that.
Oh yeah.
My favorite moment in the movie was I mean there's a lot of great moments, but I think my favorite was just that scene with Adam and the cowboy he's called. I just loved the way that was shot. I loved the atmosphere. The dialogue was great, and it was just like I think a great standalone moment. I just remember I saw that, I was like, oh, this is amazing. The opera scene is also just that song is gorgeous, but the cowboy scene is my favorite.
My favorite shot of the movie, there it is actually. That's my favorite shot of the movie. So it's the scene with that like creepy guy who's maybe like the leader of like whatever Hollywood conspiracy. And you get this guy's reflection talking to him after the meeting. I just thought the framing was cool. I thought it was very like sci-fi looking, and that was a good shot. I guess a favorite moment.
Yeah, I can't think of a favorite shot.
Would be a favorite moment would probably be the diner scene where the jump scare thing happens. I don't know why. I thought it was just like it was just creepy. It was weird, and like I don't know. It was very nightmarish, and I thought it was really cool. Everyone's had that kind of nightmare that crazy shit happens, and you're like, oh wait, it's like also a deja vu thing because this guy's sitting there and he's like, oh, you're over there, and then as soon as he sees him over there, he's like, oh fuck, I know what's gonna happen.
I don't know, man. I think you're just like Pulp Fiction, and a scene with a diner makes you.
Oh god, shut up.
I can't be the only one who thought that was like, I was like, oh, Pulp Fiction, because I love that movie.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, but they weren't talking about like eating pig and eating dog in this movie like they were in
true.
God damn it. You had to do that, and they are eating in like a fucking breakfast Denny's place in Pulp Fiction too. Okay, it's time for Film Facts with Super 8, who
was here the whole time, and if you don't remember that, you're crazy,
yeah,
and we are not gaslighting you.
There was some kind of conspiracy. You were dreaming or something. He's been here. He's been absorbing everything, and now he's going to tell you all the facts that you probably didn't care about, but God, they're really interesting, aren't they?
Adam Kesher smashing the producer's car windshield in with a golf club is a reference to the famous 1994 incident where Jack Nicholson committed the same act. Nicholson's nickname is Mulholland Man. On the way to the audition for her part as Camilla Rhodes, or Rita, Laura Herring was in a minor car accident. The film was originally filmed in 1999 on a budget of $8 million as a made-for-TV pilot, Mulholland Drive, 1999. New scenes were filmed 1 year later on a $7 million budget given by the French film studio Studio Canal to wrap up the open ending, which had been left unresolved in the original version, so that a TV series could follow. ABC executives rejected the original pilot version of Mulholland Drive because they thought that Naomi Watts and Laura Herring, among other reasons, were too old to be television stars. The film was chosen by L'Acacias du Cinéma as the best picture of the decade in 2010. This movie was voted Best Film of the 21st Century by BBC Culture Poll in 2016. The song, sang by Rebecca Del Rio, is a Spanish version of Roy Orbison's Crying. Another one of Orbison's songs, In Dreams, was also used in director David Lynch's movie Blue Velvet from 1986. The license plate on the limo at the end of the movie is 2GAT123. This is Larry David's license plate in Curb Your Enthusiasm from 2000. This was Ann Miller's last full-length movie.
Okay, your final thoughts, my final thoughts. I'll give you what I had first. We didn't even get into our first thoughts because there really wasn't much that I was thinking at the time.
It's a really, really hard to
my
analyze
final
movie.
thoughts was, God damn, that wasn't even like a movie. That was like an experience. It was a trip. It was a nightmare. It was eerie. It was like a really confusing adventure, like a mental adventure. I knew I enjoyed it, but I more felt like I just didn't know what to do with myself after it, because I was like, there was some bizarre imagery, especially the last 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So my final wrap-up thoughts are, this movie killed it in like technical aspects. I mean the acting was great, the camera work was great, the audio choices. You actually want to bring this up. You didn't like a certain audio thing that they kept doing. There was like kind of like a weird, like dream kind of sound. And
Oh
I
no!
remember
When I said when we were watching that, like, oh god, I hate that. Was like, oh god, it's terrifying. Why? It's so stressful. It was a good choice, production wise.
overall, David Lynch does a really good job at through audio and visuals, editing, and everything, just creating a really creepy dream aesthetic. And even though I might not completely understand it, and maybe it is pointless, maybe he didn't even have a point to it, I thought it was at least intriguing. What are your final thoughts?
I agree with pretty much everything you said, but I think what I have to say is that this movie, it should be clear by what we've been talking about, and if you just know the works of David Lynch in general, this is not a fun movie, and this is a very challenging movie to watch. To me, it kind of honestly, I can't give it a rating in my head because it's just so different from other movies that it just kind of stands alone in its own field of just weird. And to me, honestly, there weren't a lot of elements that just stood out to me as like phenomenal filmmaking, more as just fast. It was interesting as how it broke some rules of filmmaking and how it goes against all the common conventions of storytelling, where like a movie like Memento, which breaks the basic flow of storytelling, is great because it's still pretty much a fairly approachable movie.
You can grasp it.
This movie is this movie is not like a snack. This movie isn't even a four-course meal. This movie's a workout routine.
It's like a fucking
This
buffet.
takes some time. This movie takes some time to get to know and to work with. It is not a... I don't think it's for everyone.
No.
It's definitely not for everyone.
So,
Honestly, I don't even think it's quite for me.
with that, I would say I pretty much recommend people watch any movie because that's just how I am. So I would probably recommend you. But I will say this. This movie is certainly surrealist in that it, unless David Lynch has some mastermind theory behind it, which he might, it's more concerned about atmosphere and aesthetic than plot. And subtext, like you said, and ideas. But I will say something I think I learned from it, and I'm kind of repeating myself by saying this, but just the ability to, with your visuals and your audio and your editing and even your acting, your script, to just create a very distinct atmosphere to your movie. I mean, this movie, I would call it a horror, even though it's not even a horror. It's technically a thriller, psychological thing. But this movie freaked me the fuck out. And it's due to the really weird camera moves and the weird dialogue and the strange transitions and wacky visuals. I think it did a very good job at just creating an aesthetic. So try to do that in whatever you're making, really, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. I think the one like technical sort of what I learned aspect from this is the audio is really well done. Yeah. Like how David Lynch uses that silence and the lack of nat sound and music to really just build suspense and make you think something is wrong. This feels unnatural because it is unnatural in the context of the movie, and that's really creative. And I think it's something to think about of when you can use silence in a movie to really make a point.
All right. Joey's going to make fun of all of us with funny notes, and then we're going to be back to draw next week's movie. So,
Hi, welcome to Funny Notes, where we almost blew a fuse. This time, I am not explaining anything because it's too long, so we're just going to be reading my first note headlines. I've titled this, Men Watch Women. Remote control on car. Just standing on the side. Remote controls on the car. It's pretty pog. Next one. That's how fire create.
what?
Comfy table bed. No, love them lips.
Yeah, please elaborate.
I actually don't know why I wrote love them lips. You told me to write headlines. I wrote headlines, and I just was like, that's all I need to remember. Oh yeah, real life Palpatine. Blonde guy is Corwin. For context, there's a blonde guy that accidentally shoots people, and that's an inside joke. The basic joke is, whoops, Corwin's clumsy. Next one, a reference to our earlier episodes on Knock Off Falling Down. I'm not straight! That was a fact. Mom sitcom green screen driving. Yes! Sex XOXO. Next fact, stupid bad trumpet. Like, oh my f***ing god, why would you use a gold-plated trumpet? What are you, stupid? If you wanted to look even remotely reasonable, you'd use a Stradivarius or a King trumpet. But no, you're using this stupid f***ing gold trumpet you get from like $120 off of Amazon.com. And don't you think, oh, Amazon didn't exist? This movie came out in 2001. Amazon existed. All right. Stealing my girl. Angry face. Next one. Simple love story, sad masturbation. Yep. And then last one, tiny old man / grow old. Guys, please don't blow a fuse. This is a PSA. Do not blow a fuse. You're gonna regret it.
We are back, and it's time to find out what we're watching next week.
Which movie shall we pick from the Black Box of Doom?
So last week, I shuffled. He picked. I'm gonna flip that. Is it the Black Box of Doom?
Sure, whatever.
We're watching Alien.
Yes! Oh, I'm gonna be excited for this one. Oh my. Oh, because he hasn't seen Alien.
I have not seen it.
Which is a cardinal sin with any kind of filmmaker. And what's even better is we watch on our own time a really bad mockbuster of Alien called Creature.
We're going to have to bring it up.
And what's even more fun is another movie on our list is Dark Star, which was the movie that was made by Dan O'Bannon and John Carpenter that inspired Alien. And that's going to be a fun time.
I'm sure it is. We can do a double feature of Alien and Creature.
Oh, please do.
Oh, man,
No.
I don't know if I have that up
No,
for
we're
me.
not. No, we're not. That's this week's episode. Give Mulholland Drive a try. If I don't know, go for it. It's really weird. I've never seen anything like it. And
Be prepared to be frustrated.
yep, and lots of if you're, it's probably a good LGBT movie. I mean,
That's true.
why not? There's tits on tits. So
Oh, boy.
we'll see you next week with Alien. Until then,
Bye-bye.
we have a lot of editing to do.